We're going to be covering the Blizzard NetEase lawsuit. If you guys have not seen, there's all kinds of information being shared, and tossing it up here on the screen. We're going to kind of walk you through it, what you need to know, why there's a lawsuit being proposed, and this is coming from Wowhead. I saw you also kind of look at a couple different articles this morning, Chris. So if you got the opportunity, why don't you take us through what's going on with this article?
So for those of you that don't know, NetEase and Blizzard have not been able to see eye to eye. This is not about, like, I know some people have been reading into whether or not they want Blizzard to be in China, whether or not they think that's good for gaming or good for Blizzard. That is not what happened here. This is not Blizzard making a strategic decision to be in or out of China. They wanted to be in China before all this blew up. They still want to be in China. So it's not about whether or not they want to be there, but their partner, their publisher in NetEase, for any of you that don't follow how things make it into China, whether it's in the world of architecture or in gaming, you have to have a local partner to make it in. And Blizzard's partner for the last 14 years has been NetEase, is my understanding on how long that timeline was. And yes, they had a bigger role in stuff like Diablo Immortal, but they have acted as the publishing arm of Blizzard for a very long time. Blizzard effectively kind of decided that NetEase, for any number of speculated reasons, was not going to be a good partner moving forward, and kind of severed that partnership effectively through just a lack of meeting terms. I don't know that it was intended to end the way it ended, but it looked like Blizzard basically then ended up without a publishing arm. And without a publishing arm, they were very much at risk of losing access to everything but Diablo Immortal in the Chinese market.
Yeah, Diablo Immortal's on its own,
special
agreement. Contract and agreement.
Special contract.
So, yeah.
And so that's why that one's still lasting. We have to assume that that's up in the air as that contract gets closer to expiration. But effectively, all the other Blizzard properties were immediately going to be reneged from NetEase. Blizzard then went back to NetEase and said, hey, I really liked you as a roommate, but I like seeing other people. So what if you extended my contract, and during that time, I think you and I should get back together because I don't have anywhere else to go, and I'm going to keep dating other people. NetEase took incredible offense to that, saying, now you're not just breaking up with me, which was its own weird disagreeing with each other, but now you have the balls to come in here and ask if you can live with me because you don't have anywhere else to go yet, and you didn't plan ahead. And so then at the Blizzard headquarters, they actually tore down the big Blizzard, I think it was an axe there, and insulted it very publicly. I believe it was live streamed, them tearing that up. And so very much burning that bridge. And that was kind of where that got left off. But now we are starting to see the legal ramifications, the big thunder coming well behind the lightning. The thunder is rolling in, and Chinese publishing partner NetEase has filed a lawsuit on behalf of the million players that were affected when everything went offline back in January. They've asked for $43.5 million for refunds and discontinued game services. And I don't know that it's about the money. Like, I think this is just about continuing to punch each other in the face.
So when we look at the article here, obviously like 1.12 million players, and that's a lot of players. Like that's a significant, kind of blow to World of Warcraft. And then when I look at the article itself, right on the right-hand side, I see this lovely little advertisement for Final Fantasy 14. Do we know who Square Enix's partner is in China for Final Fantasy 14? Because I'm just kind of curious, because imagine if you were a hardcore WoW player and all of a sudden, because of incompetence is the only word that really comes to mind, you have this contract negotiation fall through. You have easily a big old group of players more than probably willing to go and check out another MMORPG. There happens to be one that's online. What do you think?
Viltus says it's Shinku. I don't know who the publisher is. It's not uncommon. My understanding is at least at some point in history, Square Enix has acted as a publishing arm for Blizzard inside Japan. So like One of the reasons Blizzard's able to service so many more languages than like Final Fantasy 14, for example, is because they're willing to work with local partners, because they're willing to outsource customer support.
They work with Square Enix on language in Japan,
right? And so they're willing to work with translation services and things like that, as opposed to Square Enix for Final Fantasy 14 chooses to bring a lot of that in-house. All of their voice actors, all of their customer support, all of that is kept under one roof, and that limits the global impact that it can have, as opposed to something like World of Warcraft, which was really able to kind of take the world by storm, because it just can. Like, because they're willing to partner with people rather than try to say, okay, we're going to operate everywhere that we can put a Blizzard headquarters up. That would be wildly limiting. And especially in places like China that are pretty locked down, it's not like, oh, we'll just build a Square Enix building there and then we'll do it ourselves. That's not really an option. My wife works in the construction industry, and she's gotten to do some stuff in China, and they've always had to have a local partner for the last leg. So that's just a universal thing. So Square Enix does it. Anybody that publishes in China is doing this. NetEase is not the only game in town. They are one of the big ones.
Yeah.
The government has a stake in many of these companies. So they are all kind of like sister companies, even if they're competing. So they might want to beat each other, but not at the cost of maybe running each other over. So I think if you back out of a deal and you're seen as a liar or deceitful or over asking, I don't know that you get to just walk into somebody else's office and they sign you up. So I think Blizzard may have thought that they could just bail on NetEase and get somebody else to handle them, but it doesn't appear to have been that easy. It doesn't appear to have been. It kind of appears like when you piss one off, it's not as simple as just signing somebody else up.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's worked out that well.
So how does this get resolved in your mind? Because the thing that I keep coming back to is the Activision Blizzard deal goes through, Bobby's out, and hello to the new negotiator. What do you guys want, NetEase? We're a whole new group of people. Because we were wondering, like, are they going to go to Tencent? Are they going to go establish another relationship? That hasn't happened. We're talking months now. This happened January 23rd. The servers went offline. We're talking, it's at the time of this recording, April 24th. And there does not seem to be signs of hope. Now there's the lawsuit, which completely makes sense from my perspective. How does this get resolved?
The problem is an outsider looking at this information, Blizzard is getting pressure from multiple directions. So as Bobby's job is to try to keep the merger on track, that trickles down. And when you look at like Mike Ibarra's job, which is to keep Blizzard in line with Activision and King, as they're part of the big system. Blizzard's go back to the office timeline was from April 10th to July 10th or whatever. And so they are in the middle of having to deal with the fact that they have decided to completely dissolve many of these positions that have moved to remote work back into in-office positions. And so if you are somebody who was working remote, maybe even was hired remote, or has since going remote moved, or has realized that this just doesn't work for you, it feels like a totally different position. Like they've said, oh, it's the same job. We're just saying you have to come back in. There's a lot of talent that doesn't want to do that. And as far as, well, the study that I saw in an article said like 97% didn't want to go. 51%, a smaller percentage, said they would quit as a result of this. And the difference in those percentages has a lot to do with things like leverage. Do you have another job available? Do you have enough money that you can afford to go without a job? Which means that people who do quit, it's not just about what do you want to do. Those of us that don't have the ability to do something, but want to do something different, a lot of times we end up sucking it up. We stay in a job we don't like. We stay in a position we don't like because there's not another option.
Well, going out and trying to find work ends up being a pain in the butt anyway. Like I was talking with Julie about this in terms of it, where like when you see these companies, like we just had that lady, like they came out and was like, hey, we're cutting bonuses, but I'm still getting my $5 million bonus. And it's like, you guys got to suck it up and get the $26 million. And then what happens is like, you'll see these companies, which for me, like at the end of the day, I'm working on writing a whole like stand-up bit about like when you have a company, it's like, we're not a company, we're a family. Like that is such marketing BS. Like that is so like that. Anytime I hear that, like that is a massive red flag for a company, because that doesn't mean that they're going to pay you more. That doesn't mean they're not going to just fire you the moment like things go south. Like that means like, no, like they're trying to sell you this like vision of work hard, but not for extra money. And so you see this whole cycle going within these like HR and marketing. And I think Blizzard in and of itself has been like really good at cultivating that. And now I think essentially the chickens have come home to roost, so to speak, when you start talking about how all of these like, hey, work from home and do all these things. And now it's like all these like perks and privileges start being clawed back as soon as like, you know, all the money and the freedom and the press and stuff starts like drying up or going against you. And so when I look at like this and what Blizzard's got like coming up, the only real solution I continue to go back to is the acquisition. Like acquisition, even if not all the leadership positions changed, it does give this the ability to maybe kind of reset the clock, reset these negotiations, like reset the working from home thing. That being clawed back is a massive concern, because I told Julie, I was like, I doubt there's a job out there that could get me to go not work from home. I've been doing it so long, things are going really great. That's how I want to continue to run and have the perks that you want me to go sit in traffic and spend 2 hours out of my day, like, you know, commuting to an office where I don't need to be and spending money, like all these additional costs that just keep you know, oh, you're not going to pay me anymore for this? Like, what are we doing here, Blizzard? Like, no, thank you. And as more companies have started to compete, like even Bungie and Sony and like there's so many more companies, especially in game development, that are coming on this remote work because they've been kind of forced to kind of figure it out. Like you're going to have people, you're going to lose talent, I think, in the long run. What do you think?
I think that you're going to lose top end talent. That's not to say everybody who stays is bottom end talent. There are going to be people who are just passionate about their job and stay. But it does mean that the people who have other job offers that they've been turning down, those are going to start looking a lot better. Mm-hmm. So if your goal is to get rid of people without severance, they're going to succeed.
Yeah.
But
maybe that
you're
is
not going to get to pick which people. And so the people that leave are the people who, you know, they have a spouse that works, or you've given them enough money that they don't have to work for a little bit, or something like that. And so you're going to lose those people pretty quick because they didn't need the job. They wanted the job. They didn't need the job. So you're going to lose those people really fast because they don't have to transition at all. Mm-hmm. The next group to leave are going to be the people who have the ability to line up another job. And if that other job doesn't start until July or August, they're going to quietly bide their time. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, they're going to put in their 2 weeks. And you're going to say, well, what can we do to keep you? Like, what do you mean?
What are you talking about?
I've already signed another benefits package. I'm out. There's no saving me at this point. You know, so there's going to be kind of a couple waves here. And where that hurts them in the context of we're talking about the NetEase lawsuit is Blizzard has been trying to turn this new leaf after several very rough years. The 44 million isn't the issue, but when you look at that this reminding you that you have a publishing arm from another company and a player base in another part of the world that is substantial. 1 million players is huge. Doesn't matter if each one of those 1 million players only barely touches one of their products once a month. It's still an enormous number of players that are affected. You have to say, okay, this is squeezing revenue. Mm-hmm. Now, over on the west side of the world, you have a bunch of upset employees leaving, some leaving very abruptly, some trickling out between now and July. Now you have a squeeze from the production side. So you've got a squeeze from the budget side, which puts all their CFOs on edge. And now you've got all their managers being put on edge because they're realizing, I don't have enough talent to assign to this many product releases. So when you look at the fact that like WoW Dragonflight, while it has underperformed in sales numbers, likely because of the trust lost with Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands, the people who have played it have been largely pretty complimentary of it. It's been heading in a new direction, but the question has been, can they keep it going? One good product launch is not enough. It needed to be backed up by a good 10.1, a good 10.2, a good 10.3, a good 11.0, a streamline of an entire train just mowing down expectations and saying, we are here to be better. How do you do that without money or people or both? Like, so the problem with this lawsuit is that it says they are no closer to resolving what they're doing with the Chinese market. And now they're having to deal with that fire that's still burning, and they have a new fire lighting up at home. So like I just don't see how this isn't bad for Blizzard at a time that like I'm pretty happy with Dragonflight.
Right.
So like
but but